Hey, Andrew, I was just kind of
I guess.
curious. Uh, did you get a chance to kind of turn the defense loose a little bit in your scrimmage on Friday, and kind of what did you see from that group?
Sure. So the way Coach Collins structured the scrimmages, we've had two main scrimmages where they've been live reps. We've had an opportunity to tackle to the ground since we've been protective of our guys. The first scrimmage, we were very static in terms of our defensive structure and our scheme. So those are base fronts, base coverages. That is designed to who can play blocks, who can play base defense, who can tackle, obviously from the other side of the football, who can throw, who can catch, who can break tackles in those situations. So we were able to see that, and we were very simple in those settings. So that was a great observation tool for us. A little more of our personality, defensive structure-wise, is to have movements, whether it be front movements, whether it be bring people from the second level and be a little more exotic. I say the word exotic, but have base defense, but he allowed us to open up the playbook. So to your point, we were able to be a little more of our personality. And doing that, that allows us to create more negative plays and to get the offense behind the sticks a little bit. So us playing our personality, now we moved. I think we had more confidence. I think as a defense, we played better. In the same sense, I was much more pleased with violence, with effort, violence, energy, and just the contact piece of it. I thought in the first scrimmage that was on the front end of us tackling as well. So we can work a billion tackling drills, then you get to a live setting and you get to the moment of truth is the word that I used a lot the last time we had an opportunity to speak. The moment of truth was a little more catchy, a little more soft, a little more uncertain. The second scrimmage, I think we got back to just playing fast, playing more violent while using technique and effort, and it was a much better product out there by the defense. Coach set up an unbelievable environment for our Friday night football. We were out in Bobby Dodd. We had some of our new little cool things in the stadium with lights and musics, and it was a cool game day atmosphere, and just the energy picked up. But again, back to the point, Kelly, I think just opening up the playbook a little bit, allowing us to move, which is more our personality, allowed those guys to have more confidence, to play faster, and it showed up on tape.
Next question is from Rod McKenzie from 247 Sports.
Hey, Andrew, good morning.
Hey, Rod, good morning.
Last time we were together, you mentioned you were looking forward to seeing how the freshman linebackers were going to do in the scrimmage in terms of building depth at that position. What did you see from those three freshmen?
Sure. I saw progress, and I saw why we recruited them. Why did we recruit them? They're the right type of dudes, and then they have playmaking ability. Okay, so in that scrimmage, again, we had an opportunity to literally play every single player on the roster and get those guys live reps. So the three guys that we brought in, Tyson Miguez, Katavian Franks, and then Kaya Wright's also playing linebacker and being a flexible guy for us as far as a pass rush specialist. So those three guys were able to get moment of truth. Of those three, all three showed positive things, and all three showed why they're freshmen. Again, I always talk about bridging the gap and how difficult that is from high school to college. There's a large gap to bridge right there, but because of their mature approach, they've given themselves a chance. In terms of assignment, being most confident in what they're doing, right now that's Tyson Miguez. He's had an opportunity to get more reps with some older groups because of his mature approach, knowing what to do, having confidence in those situations. And then now he's got to bridge the gap with those moment of truth versus elite backs. He had an opportunity to go tackle Jameer Gibbs and J.P. Mason and Dante, right, and and Jamias. So those are elite backs. We've got an elite running back room, and having to tackle those dudes within the framework of the box and in space, we saw a lot out of those guys in those moments. Somebody that had some just missing practices for small little things. Again, not talking about injuries, but just small little things. Katavian Franks had less reps. We got into a scrimmage setting, and he showed up. All right, so now he's got to bridge the gap just with the mental piece of everything. But I'll share this information with you. Katavian Franks was in 17 live reps of the scrimmage. He made 5 tackles. That's almost 1 out of every 3. He's in there making a play. So his playmaking ability, again, back to the original question, was something that showed up. And then Kaya, we've had an opportunity to let him play linebacker reps. We went over to pass rush one-on-one today, and I sent him over to pass rush one-on-one just because that's his dominant trait. His edge rush is just slipperiness, his ability just to attack in space out there. So we've had an opportunity to put him in on some third down packages and utilize his skill set and not just put him into a square peg.
Next up is a question from Zach Klein from WSB TV here in town.
Hey, Hey, Coach, first was a quick question.
Zach?
How many scrimmages will you have had from the time you guys got together till Florida State?
We've had 2 things that we've called scrimmages. Obviously, we put them in stressful environments all the time, but 2 called scrimmages.
2, and we have any more up until the game?
Everything else will be in a controlled environment where now we're going good on good, and then controlling the Florida State looks.
Okay, so then my question is, you mentioned tackling in practice is one thing, tackling a Seminole it will be another.
Mm-hmm.
Are there 2 scrimmages enough, and what else can you do to kind of pull Coach Collins aside? Listen, man, we need to get after it a little bit more, and that balance between protecting a teammate and getting the defense where they need to be for that opener.
Sure. So controlled environments, we won't do another thing where we'll make a big deal about it and have Friday nights under the deal and we're out there tackling, our top 4 running backs. We won't be doing that. But controlled drills, I'm doing live drills with running back and linebackers where there's short area space, but to where they have to have those moment of truths. When we go to the developmental team, right, that's our substitution for saying scout team developmental, so that to Coach's point, they're not over there running cards and doing this thing on a card. They're running their plays, just guys that aren't up there with the above the line group. So we're getting to play versus a solid group. We'll have live periods. It'll just be one a day, but we'll have live periods, and then everything else we teach stud tackling. So as defenses have kind of evolved, that moment of truth is critical and important. But the way that we teach tackling, that rugby-style tackling that's become popular, we call it near foot, near shoulder, you can get those reps on every single play in a thud period and end up in dominant body position. So we're critiquing those small little things. But to your point, until they got to a live scenario, they didn't feel that moment of truth. Now they've had gaps in their game. They've made mistakes. So now in a controlled environment, they understand the urgency of coming into those reps. So controlled drills, and then one environment today to where they can get live reps, and then teaching, we're micromanaging thuds.
Thank you.
Next up is a question from Ken Segura from the AJC.
Andrew, you'd mentioned a week ago about just kind of recognizing that there will be times where you're going to be missing guys, and obviously this season I think is very fluid. And I'm curious, what sort of changes do you know you'll have to make as far as like whether it's keeping a certain group of kids together or giving guys more reps across practice or whatever it is that you're gonna have to factor in, or like if you find out on a Saturday or Sunday you're gonna be your opponent's gonna be different because of whatever.
Sure.
What sort of things are you kind of have in mind already of what you want to do?
Sure. So for me as the head coach, Coach Collins has done a great job. So we don't have to worry about it, worry about those things. We're mindful of them. He gives us the guidance, but he's done an unbelievable job of setting up an environment to where we're being as safe as possible. We continue to knock on wood to get great results as far as having our entire team out there to practice and not having to miss guys, without talking about injury, without talking about personal things. We've been very fortunate. So we've been incredibly mindful of those things. So him controlling the environment, number one, so we can just worry about defense. I talked about it the other day with you guys. The above the line deal helps us in everything that we do. We're constantly developing multiple reps. We don't just rely on 11 guys to go out there. We play lots of bodies to help us with those scenarios. Every college football coach in the country probably reads Football Scoop. Football Scoop did a nice little deal the other day. They were talking about the Central Arkansas and Austin Peay game. And they were talking about, they couldn't talk about the privacy of injuries in everyone's deal, but all of a sudden they get up there and in a close football game, Austin Peay's down to their 4th long snapper. Their 1st and 2nd and 3rd long snapper didn't show up to the game. We can surmise probably why they didn't show up to the game. I bet all 3 didn't have an ankle injury. So we can hypothesize why they weren't there, but that's just a tangible idea of what that's like. They're down to their 4th long snapper. He makes a poor snap in the game in a 3 or 7 point margin game, and just how critical those things are. So again, what is a tangible example of how we do that? When we broke up today, we allowed our developmental squad, guys that are on the fringe, that are still fighting to be above the line on offense, they come over and they run plays within Dave Patnode's offense. They're exactly the same formation. They're exactly called the way that they are so that they can go play fast and they can continue to get better at their craft. It's as similar as we can possibly get to what a look that Florida State will give us, and we're just over there playing offense and defense. Again, here's what most teams are doing. They're holding up a card. It takes them 30 seconds to show the offensive line, to show the running backs, to show the receivers what to do. Ready, break. They go and run the card, and then they're in that kind of mode, that mindset of, man, I'm just running a card. Man, I'm over here on scout team. So again, the developmental piece. And in the same token, our defense is over there running Florida State's defense to the best as our verbiage as possible. So you guys mentioned Tyson Miguez and Katavian Franks and Kai Wright. They're over there getting full speed reps versus our offense versus elite backs where they're having to thud and run our defense. So what does that do? That creates development over the course of the time. So last season when we got late in the deal to NC State and Georgia, guys that were originally on the developmental squad, games 1 through 6, are playing real snaps for us. A good example would have been Curtis Ryans this last season. Was on the developmental the first half of the season. He starts late in the season in a game for us who was originally developmental. Sorry to be long-winded, Ken.
And who's your fourth long snapper, by the way?
I have absolutely no idea. I might have to run out there. That is a great question.
Time for a couple more for Coach Thacker. We'll have one from Kelly Quinlan and then a final one from Rod McKenzie. So go ahead, Kelly.
Andrew, you have 4, 5, you count Kaya, freshman defensive end, outside linebacker, pass rusher guys. Kind of where are they at? Is there 1 or 2 guys that are close to maybe contributing? Kind of what do you see from that group?
Yeah, so they're developing. They showed up. So Emmanuel has, they all have different skill sets, which is the best part too. Emmanuel Johnson has been able to play 5 technique and play inside of the 3 technique, so he's already given us multiplicity. He is mature, he is strong, heavy-handed. He gives us an edge right there. Kyle Kennard has the most pass rush ability of the 3, and then Jared Ivey's given us some flexibility playing that rush position and playing the defensive end. I think he found a better home getting down into a 3 or 4 point stance and being heavy-handed to be in a 5 technique. He just gives us a certain amount of length and body space and just disrupting and matching the throwing out of the quarterback that you can't coach or teach. So that it's neat that all 3 of them kind of have a dominant trait. Now they're bridging the gap to be total players. They've been developmental, but at some point they're going to be able to help us. And then Emmanuel Johnson with an incredibly mature approach, having some flexibility. Kai has run off the edge, speed pass rusher, 3rd down, and has just shown up on one-on-one pass rush, which is great for him.
Okay, our final question for Coach Thacker, Rod McKenzie.
Hey, Andrew, you have some pretty good talent at the nickel position. How difficult is it for you to manage that group when you have that kind of talent? And how do you come about, dividing up the reps for those guys?
Yeah. So Coach Burton has the nickels and the safeties in the same room right now, so he's doing a great job of managing them. We don't just give lip service to position flexibility. So Caleb Oliver, Wesley Walker, Charlie Thomas, Jalen Askew all play multiple positions for us. So nickel, free safety, strong safety, and then Jalen still goes over and plays corner as well, but all 4 of them have had a billion reps at the nickel position. Also by scheme, that gives us flexibility. Obviously, Jalen Askew has a different skill set than Charlie Thomas as far as what can we do. Is it more of a Sam linebacker overhang? We can do our base nickel stuff. Is it a true nickel position where Coach Collins, when he was at Florida, he had Duke Dawson, who was a draftable corner, but played the nickel for us. So what that allows us to do by scheme and by game plan. We have a base defense, we have a dime defense, and then we have a 3rd down prowler defense where all of those guys give us a skill set. Is it difficult to give them all 1 reps with the A group, the first group that goes out there? It is, but they've done a great job of competing, having the correct attitudes, being selfless at that position, and the competition has been great. So all 3 of them, all 4 of them have skill sets that are different, and then you'll definitely see KO and Wesley Walker also within a game get safety reps as well, so that they're not pigeonholed to just being stacked behind each other at nickel.